We've got a good show today. Looks like we've got, okay, so I did some research on submarines. On the left side of your screen there, at the top it says largest navies in the world, and then largest air forces in the world. So we're looking under navies. I was interested in submarines because China has been building lots of subs. Hold on, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee here. That was a decent slurp. Let's get another one. The 1-2. Okay. Shout out to Mug Club. Okay, moving on. So submarines. China's got more subs than us. Okay, but we've got lots of aircraft carriers. 11 of them. And we've got 10 helicopter carriers. Let's move on to this other scene here. Hey, what's up, guys? I get caught looking at my screen here. I kind of look like a doofus when I'm moving around on my screen here. I'd actually like to prefer to look at the camera, but I'm a one-man band right now, doing all the controls, talking. It's my first time doing this, so bear with me here. But in any case, so submarines, okay? Look, we got Russia and we got China in the top three with us. I did some math. Let me pull it up real quick. So, submarine count. According to World Population Review, Russia and China equals 143 subs. If North Korea joins in the fray, which they might, it's very likely. I mean, they like to fight, and they also have a lot of military personnel registered right now currently as well. We'll get into some interesting topics on that later. Basically, people who are engaged in current conflict tend to have more people enrolled into their military. So places like Vietnam, North South Korea, China, they all have, even Russia has lots of people, more than the United States, as registered members of the military. So in any case, Russia and China submarine count is 143. With North Korea, it would be 179. Iran and the United States have had some conflict in the past. And, if we were going to kind of separate who's on what team here, I would speculate. I would be curious to see what Iran would do in response to like a world war on their continent. Because everyone's going to get caught in the backlash, I feel like. So with Iran, it'd be 208. I should have put a screen share up here with you guys. But in any case, so I'll go through this real quick. Immediate NATO allies, not including USA, would be 83 guys. 83 submarines. Just Russia and China would be 143. Our allies is just 83. With North Korea, it'd be 179. With Russia, China, North Korea, Iran would be 208 submarines. Immediate allies of NATO is 83. With the United States, it would be 151. Okay, so that's very interesting stuff. Like I said before, we have all these aircraft carriers and helicopter carriers, but controlling the depth of the oceans is important. If you can't control the sea in the deep realms of it, these aircraft carriers are going to be worthless. They're going to you can't advance across the ocean with them if you can't have cover for them. I watched a video where they have these like brigades or whatever, like little platoons or whatever. There's like 50 different ships covering one aircraft carrier, and that's like their strategy. Air Force. First off, let me just reiterate that I think we need to get our sub count up. A lot of these NATO allies, they don't have a lot of submarines. They really don't. They don't really have any aircraft carriers or really any destroyers. If you were to like scroll down this list, I mean, it drops off quickly. There's like nobody really investing in the military. So it's really interesting to see. And when Trump would talk about everybody needs to pay their 2%, well, when you start scrolling down this list, you start to see why they need to pay their 2%. Because if China and Russia were to link arms, they would have submarine dominance in the oceans. Now, on the flip side of that, we would have air dominance. like a mother. But they're trying to take Taiwan, and they're probably wanting to take Japan as well. Russia and China, total aircraft is 7,458. North Korea, added to the fray with them, would be 8,404. With Iran, it'd be 8,947. Now, immediate NATO allies, total aircraft would be 7,735. With the United States alone has 13,247 total aircraft. So the total with our NATO allies would be 20,982. We've got them almost doubled there, but we would be struggling in the oceans if it was come to war. Total members of military, including all branches, that includes reserve. Anyways, Russia and China, 6,369,000. That's not including like Iran or North Korea or anything like that. All NATO members, including US, is 6,214,950. So it's like neck and neck, except for the Air Force. We do have really advanced technology in our military. I like those little explosions. Anyways, I showed a screenshot of the numbers on how much we've actually spent on our military, but I didn't do that. Moving on here. This is the Wikipedia on our NATO allies. I just wanted to quickly show this graph. 6,214,950. So if we were to go to war, it would probably be something, I would assume, like Russia and China versus NATO. And then there'd be lots of people in the mix that can't really tell what their decision is yet. And half these guys don't even have the military capability to contend because we're just going to rely on NATO and not pay our 2%. I think it'd be like China and Russia versus NATO. And the China virus, is it a biological weapon? Was it released intentionally? We don't know. I would hope we find out. There's evidence that kind of like points towards it. And a year ago or 2 years ago, you had been considered a conspiracy theorist, shunned, fired, all that just for suggesting a narrative contradicting Mr. Fauci and his little goon squad. Right here, I've got an article where basically these Republican transcribers were so concerned with what was going on that they hand wrote the communications between these guys because they found it so disturbing because they couldn't leave with the actual documents. So they hand wrote it because they found it so disturbing and started raising questions. I think it was like the unredacted versions or something. So is the China virus a biological weapon? I don't know, but I'll tell you what. Last episode we talked about Mr. Biden, but right here on the New York Post article, this one's on the military scientist that became deceased from some I forget what the wording was there, but basically it was seemed like a nefarious death, and he was a military scientist trying to file for a patent on COVID-19 like a little while before it was like even really released, I think, something along those lines. So Biden is ordering an investigation on Zhao later dying under mysterious circumstances. So Biden's ordering that investigation. Now, last episode we talked about Biden handling an investigation in Burisma, where he was the vice president at the time, Vice President Joe Biden. He bragged that he had threatened to withhold $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees for Ukraine unless Shokin was sacked. He said, "I looked at them and I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money." Well, son of a bitch, he got fired. So this is the same guy that's using his political persuasion and political power / leverage to get people fired. He was public about this. It's not like he was hiding this. He openly said that he withheld $1 billion, and He openly admitted he used his political power to persuade and corrupt an ongoing investigation. But yet now he's ordering an investigation. This mysterious death on the military scientist that tried filing a patent. So you tell me. Kind of seems like it was a preconceived narrative. Here we have the emails. These are two different emails. Yeah, so this one's from Francis Collins on October 8th. He was talking about how these three scientists from Oxford, Harvard, and Stanford had been getting a lot of recognition for their, it was like what was it again? The Great Barrington Declaration. Yeah, okay, I was right there. Basically, these Oxford, Stanford, and Harvard scientists like came up with this, what was it again? Great Barrington Declaration, and they were suggesting a lab leak, saying that like it didn't look like it was a natural occurrence. It looked like it was man-made or manufactured man-made. Right here, there needs to be a quick and devastating published takedown of its premises. I don't see anything like that on the line or online yet. Is it underway, Francis? And then Fauci, I think this is the next corresponding email. He started sending articles to debunk natural immunity and the lab leak, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's really funny because they called it deadly delusions. They were calling it fringe, a fringe opinion. It's funny because that word fringe seems to come up a lot when they're trying to hide something or be tyrannous. Trudeau did it a lot. What's up, Duke? You laying down already? You guys want to see my dog? Psst, 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 psst. I touched my dog, Dukey. Here you go, boy. But Mr. Fauci is not a good boy. He is an asshole. So, they're calling him deadly delusions. Okay, it's all about the framing and the articulation, guys. We've been seeing it for a long time. These guys are bad news bears. So right here, they're talking about how we're too busy with other things to worry about this. When we talk about smoke screens, sleight of hand, when something big is going on in the news, look for the little shit because normally they're trying to hide something. It's funny because they're literally talking about sleight of hand right here. They're too busy with other things to worry about this. What you said was entirely correct. Now, mind you, this is one of the people that initially, I do believe this is one of the people initially that was questioning the lab leak. And mind you, those three scientists separately received basically research funding from Fauci's organization a couple weeks after they were raising questions about lab leak. But it's funny because, so they're talking about sleight of hand, being about we're too busy worrying about other shit. And then right here on the bottom, it looks like this is redacted. They cut out people who are CC'd on this email. See, these motherfuckers, dude, they're hiding shit. Why would you cut those people out? There's those 5 gray blocks right there. Those are probably really important names like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, AOC. I bet you all those fucking corrupt bastards are on there. I had to look into who these other people are. Anyways, they're talking about how this will not be appreciated in the White House. My quotes are accurate, but it will not be appreciated in the White House. Francis Collins. They know that it won't be appreciated. Why are they... Sorry, I'm thirsty, guys. I haven't really woke up much. I haven't drank much since I woke up. But in any case, will not be appreciated in the White House. So they know what they're doing is wrong. They know that there's reason for the White House not to agree with what they're doing. So this one is from Greg, I can't say his last name, who wrote the op-ed trashing the GBD. From Francis Collins again. Fauci's CC'd in this. The 5 grayed out names are not in the CC list in this email. So that's interesting. This is for the lower tier guys just trying to work their way up the totem pole, right? That's what I see here. Because Greg here is trying to worm his way into the circle. It looks like, there's one grayed out name Oh, there's one grayed out name. He must be trying to get in with the big guy, right? Here's that word fringe again at the bottom. You can read it if you want, but I'm skipping below the URL. After we saw what you heard about the fringe epidemic, I can't even say that word really right now. Epidemic. I'm probably gonna end up cutting that. Maybe not. You guys want to see my face while I try it? I gotta cut these off. Epidemiologist. But I can't say that word. Anyways, I'm not even gonna attempt it. Epidemiology. But they're calling it fringe again. It's just weird. And it's funny because in the top part there, they're talking about speaking out and doing it undiplomatically. So it's like, oh yeah, see, I remember I was talking about them working their way up the totem poles. That's what it seems like to me. So it's just really interesting, okay? I'm going to jump back and just reiterate, which one was it? This one right here. Biden, is he fit to lead? Does Biden have a conflict of interest in Ukraine? I think it's really funny. Where was that one? Right here. I'm going to plug in my laptop. So was this released on purpose? I'm pretty sure that China had like some whistleblower a year before COVID came out too. Something about a military football game. Something along those lines. Is a biological weapon though? I'd like to come back to that question. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it was released on purpose? I'll talk about it. That's for sure. I think open conversation is important. You know, when you zoom, like I was talking about before, like when you zoom out and you look at things like China trying to take territory from India at this time, the conflict between India and China started in 2020, right when COVID got released. And that's also when the CCP decided to liberate Hong Kong and take their civil liberties away. Back to this guy, right? It was 2020 when China started bumping up their submarine count. Also, you add that to the timeline. So you got them trying to take territory from India. You got them taking the civil liberties from Hong Kong / seizing Hong Kong. You've got them ramping up their military. You've got COVID going on. You've got propaganda on Black Lives Matter. You got propaganda on Trump. You've got our economies across the world getting crashed because of COVID. You've got divide and conquer with the vaccination on COVID and masking. And you've got the divide and conquer with the LGBT community, with schools, sports. You've got propaganda on Rogan for spreading what misinformation? Tell us what misinformation that Rogan was spreading. You won't. I'll wait. Okay. You don't have like specific. They don't have specific things. They're just throwing fucking narratives out there and hoping that they stick. And I think people are waking up to it. I have. I've noticed the bullshit for a while. But when we're talking about the timeline of China taking the territory from India, Hong Kong, they're ramping up their navy, okay, since 2020, since COVID, okay? But their Air Force is not really getting ramped up. To me, that looks like not only do they want to take Taiwan, but they also they might try to take Japan too, basically. And if you look at the history of China, I think it was like the 1940s. Basically, the democratic leaders of China got pushed to Taiwan. That was like their retreat. Maybe the CCP wants to finish what they started, because it was the United States that stopped them from actually going in and completely just annihilating everyone in Taiwan during that time. But I just found it very interesting, and I'd like to reiterate on the submarine counts. Okay, if we have any military members watching, we need to get our subs up. We need to get the depth of the ocean is like space. Okay, it's like one of those areas where we don't have a lot of technology that, it's not human inhabitable, right? So when you control those extreme depths, whether heights or depths, you control that area. There's speculation because China came out with these little robots that go up and repair the satellites and there's concerns on whether or not they might use those to try to hijack satellites. Now, I find this to be pretty probable. Okay, I work in the wind industry, and there's a company called Run Energy, and we use drones to inspect blades. The inside of the blades, the oxygen levels are not good. It's dead air, and if you go in there and you start breathing it in, you'll die. If you continue to breathe that, you have to go in there with oxygen. You have to ventilate the blades. So, and also on the blades that are attached to the turbines themselves, they're way up in the air. So we use drones. We use drones to inspect them. And Run Energy was having a problem with their drones. They were troubleshooting it with the tech from the company that made it out of China. And they were able to take control of the drone from China. The troubleshooting technician from China, that is. And being that he could take control of their drone and fly it around from China, scared the crap out of the CEOs of this company. Okay, and the CEOs of Run Energy stopped doing business with China on these drones. This was like a decade ago. This is like a long time ago. This is an American company that I really respect their decision for doing that, because they saw the risk that could create. Okay, so think about buying locally. Okay, like the technology is a whole different realm. We're not just like the propaganda and the influence from other countries has been unleashed back upon the world because of the internet and because of the convenience of it. So think about buying locally. Don't buy drones from China. Okay? Don't buy anything from China. Don't buy anything from Russia. Okay, these are our freaking enemies. They want to see the end of our country. They want to be the world power. Okay? If they could invade us like they're trying to invade Taiwan, they would. Okay? So we need to keep our right to bear arms, and we need to wake up. We need to understand their tactics, understand what they're doing. Like I was saying, the propaganda and the influence that these other continents now have on ours is widely accessible due to technology. Okay, so we don't want their little drones up in space stealing our satellites. We don't want them testing missiles on the southern cap of the world where we don't have satellites. We need more submarines. We need to control those really extreme depths, those extreme areas in the world where we don't really have a lot of inhabitability, if that's a word. But I'll tell you what, China has 1.4 billion people. If they were to go to war, they would probably draft a lot of people, and it's all men too. So these people don't have wives and stuff. They're fucking horny. They don't have nothing to do but fight. So summer's coming up. It's the fighting season. Get educated, get prepared, and be ready for anything. Over and out.